Good morning everyone, and welcome to a very hot and humid day. I'm going to take you through a little bit of what I'm working on, and I hope that you enjoy it, and I hope you get a little bit of some motivation.
Nothing ever felt like home again when Ruby went away. Nothing ever felt like home since when Ruby went away.
A big portion of my days are spent outdoors. In the morning is when I get a lot of outdoor things done, and that's when the weather is a little bit cooler. I'm always rearranging things and always changing the look of our property. I still have a few things that I want to plant outside in the garden, but other than that, everything is pretty much done as far as planting. I have a few things that I want to work on yet. I like to keep myself busy. As you can see, the sun is bright and it's very warm out today. As the days go on, I focus a lot on my garden, and I'm really pleased how the garden is looking so much better than what it did a year or two ago. Also, another thing I'm doing is trying to use everything that I own. Now, I don't want to sound like a broken record because I do have daily videos out, but every single day I'm finding things that I already have that I can reuse over and over again. And I'm finding that there's so many things I didn't know I had. I would have told you a year or two ago that I know exactly what I have, but I didn't. And now I'm organizing everything, and it's so peaceful to the mind. It helps reduce anxiety. My husband is still mulching, and he had 3 loads now, truckloads of mulch. So you're going to be seeing that throughout this week, but I think by the end of this week you won't be seeing it anymore. But he is a perfectionist, and he does a lot of work, and it looks really nice. I'm planting everything left in the greenhouse, and then I'm going to use my greenhouses for other projects. Now, as I edit this, the garden does look a little bit different again, and I will show you at the end. Now, what I'm doing here is I take a battery-operated little scissors, and I am just trimming them like I would trim a hedge. And this is all my mint. It gets unruly, and so sometimes I have to trim it down once or twice a year because I can't possibly use this much mint at one time. And then I like to cut it back. And now I'm just washing my containers over and over again and using them. And I put them in Earl's house, which it used to be our chicken house. We have not had chickens for 3 years, and I'm going to answer this because every day I get people asking. We have a fox and his family live in our woods. We are surrounded by very many woods. We are in a hollow. We have a ridge line above us. And even though I didn't see the fox this year, the neighbors up on the ridge line say he's still there. All right, I'm going to sit down and take a little bit of a break, get some water in me. I'm telling you, those gnats are so bad down at the garden when it's humid. You don't think about being so hot unless you start working, and then it's just, you're not used to it. So it's going to take me a little while to get used to it. People ask me if we have air conditioning. For 13 years, we did not have any air conditioning. We do have air conditioning in our house. So yes, we will put that on only if it's really, really bad. So we don't use air conditioning often. But yes, we do have air conditioning when it gets to be 100 degrees outside. Some ideas to save money. So we do all of our cooking from scratch, well, most of it from scratch now. So we've been eating a lot of potatoes, and potatoes are really cheap. Now, my potatoes are not mature yet in the garden, so I did buy some russet. I always take them out of the plastic bags, and I put them in burlap because they last many months that way. As you can see, and I'll show you here in a minute, there's moisture inside this bag. So you really want to keep your potatoes dry and not have moisture. And make sure there's no bad ones in here, because you know one bad one will ruin all of them. All right, I'm gonna go ahead and put them in the out porch, and that is basically like my root cellar. And then I want to go ahead, I did trim my hair today. I'm not sure why my hair is turning red. No, I did not dye it. My hair is turning red and it's really strange. But I did trim my hair and want to go put the hair trimmings out in the garden because we do have some rabbits. We have 2 rabbits and I'm going to keep them there. I think they're cute. We're going to read a little bit in my grandma, which is my husband's grandma, Fanny diary. Now, she was playing Mennonite, so a lot of people ask me, well, how come she didn't talk about world news? No, nothing in here is about anything with the world and the news, because they weren't really bothered by that so much. And especially being a homemaker, she didn't write about that. I don't think that was something that was something that she concerned herself with a lot of the time. Now, Grandma Fanny was my husband's grandma, and my husband, that would be my husband's mother's mother. They only had one child, and her name was Marion, and Fanny was her mother. But I took care of Grandma until she died, and Grandma was my best friend for many years as a young mom. June, let's go and let's see, what does she have to say? In 1944, she writes, "Today I'm making dresses for Marion. It's a rainy day. In the evening, we went to Howard Longenecker's." Now, Howard Longenecker was a neighbor. You're going to hear her talk a lot about visiting people. So this part is not going to interest you, because when Grandma wrote her diary, she didn't write it thinking about the public. She wouldn't believe that I am reading her diary, because her diary was just for her. 1945. Today we got 123 pounds of beef from David Hess. It was a very warm day. In 1946, we had Walters over for dinner, ate supper at Lidditz Springs, and visited Raymond Bucher's. 1945. Planted tobacco and picked 6 quarts of strawberries. So this is what gets me interested in when she talks about the things that she's done. I'm going to try to mimic her in some of her daily chores and try to do the same thing in my day that she did in her days back in 1942, 43, 44, 45. So when the summer months continue, we're going to see more and more where they talk about planting tobacco, and she talks about her garden, making ice cream, boiled jar lids. That's all she wrote. She boiled jar lids. I assume she boiled them the day before because she didn't can anything that day. So, and then here she said she canned strawberries. So it's really interesting because she didn't go into elaborate detail. Like, how did she can her strawberries? How did they can strawberries in 1942? All these things are so interesting. Picked 8 quarts of strawberries, put sugar peas in the locker. A locker? In those days, they didn't have their own freezer. They had to go to town and they rented a freezer, and that's where they would have their storage of food that was frozen. So in 1942, people didn't have their own freezers. Most farm women had to go to town and they rented a big freezer and they would put their food in it. And it's called a locker. Well, she called it a locker. You must understand, these are Pennsylvania Dutch. These are Mennonite. Their language may be a little bit different. So it might not be the term locker for the main world, but that's what she used. And fetching for things and go doing the wash and kamesa, time to eat. We have a lot of slang in our language. And so that was something that was really, you see, evident in all of her writings. So this is what her writings look like. She used pencil. I do have her husband's grandparents, which is in the 1800s, and they did have, of course, the quill and ink. And I do have a small diary of his too, of Jacob Groves. So I do have a small diary of his, and I will talk about that. She talks about washing her hair. Now, she only washed her hair once a week. And then she would post on here when she washed her hair, I assume to remind her of when she washed her hair, so when she has to wash it again. Also, a tank of gas. She wrote down whenever she had to get a tank of gas. And I assume that was her way of keeping it written down as to how, when she needed it again. And so this was more of a diary, but more of a ledger for her. So, cool wash day, planted more lima beans. The men are planting tobacco. And so we're going to be talking a lot about tobacco because we're in June and this is what they did in June. She's talking about going to people's funerals, going to weddings, going to the doctor, you know, just everyday life. And that's what my diary and my YouTube is. It's my everyday life. And I can look back on it and say, oh yeah, I did that last year this time. 4 years ago, we painted our house. And it was really neat to see and to remind ourselves, oh yeah, that's what we did 4 years ago. So thank you guys so much for watching today's video. It's Spend the Morning with Me. So we have some leftover chili and I have some leftover chicken corn noodle soup. That's what we're gonna have for lunch because we're both really busy working today. So I washed our bedding as well. And now I'm just putting the pillow cases on the pillows. It's such a beautiful day. It's not that hot yet. But any day without rain is a day that's a lot of work. I'm very thankful for the rain, but it makes it really frustrating to get so much work done because we have to dodge the raindrops all the time. But people ask me all the time about my garden. I do not water my garden. So if I water it by hand, I'll water it by hand with a little bit. I don't irrigate my garden, nor do I water it. I just let it up to nature. Take care, everyone. We'll see you guys again tomorrow. Bye.
Know you've been a good friend, and that's in the thick and thin.